Welcome to the Psychology Club podcast, brought to you by Vicente Martinez High School.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Psychology Club podcast. Today we have a special guest, Sean Sharkey. Give him a round of applause. All right, I'm Cassie.
I'm Nick.
I'm Drake.
I'm Chris.
I'm Alexandra.
I'm Liz.
All right, let's go ahead and get started with the question. So first question for you is, what is the mission of FeetFirst?
So FeetFirst is an organization, a nonprofit organization that was founded through FICOR MMA about 3 years ago. And our mission has been from the beginning to help anybody who is having some challenges or difficult times in life. We've worked with numerous populations, and we're kind of now working towards youth. Working towards programs that prevent youth violence in schools. And that's really where our mission is now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you mind telling us how you founded FeetFirst? What inspired you to help others through boxing?
Well, so again, FICOR has been around for close to 25 years, and we always had programs for kids in the community that were, say, maybe economically challenged, coming from different backgrounds. And so we always had programs for youth. However, about 3 years ago, one of my members, Dan Dorsett, approached me and said that he thought that with some of the things that we were doing was pretty amazing, and just the sheer numbers of kids that we were working with on a nonprofit basis. He thought that it would be cool to start a nonprofit, an actual organization. And we started it, and it started with 12 kids. And starting for the new school year for 2019-2020, and this is a number that really hasn't been put out there yet, there's going to be 2,000 children and teenagers in the program. 2,000, that number just started to materialize with agreements and contracts with numerous school districts, from Oakland Unified School District to Mount Diablo Unified School District, Martinez Unified School District, and Antioch Unified School District. So it's going to total about 2,000 kids and teens for the coming school year.
That's a pretty
Wow.
good number.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big number. It's a big number considering we started with 12. And really there was 12 about a year ago.
Oh, so
And that
wow.
first 12, by the way, was Vicente High School.
Oh,
huh.
happy to
I
help.
like that sound.
Yeah.
All right. Even though I'm a part of the program, what are the boxing principles that you teach?
So we teach basic boxing principles. When we started putting the foundation together, there was a lot of thought process going on. Well, because FICOR is a jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, boxing. It's a conglomerate of disciplines. And so the question became, well, what are you going to, originally, believe it or not, I was going to teach jiu-jitsu to everybody. And the thought of that was, we started kind of like experimenting a little bit. And just the magnitude of literally of bringing mats with you to schools is a big deal. I mean, mats are heavy, and they take, good-sized trucks to move. And during this whole process, we're doing a little bit of it at the gym. I started thinking, why don't we just do something real simple like boxing? It's kind of
boxing is a lot easier than jiu-jitsu.
It's a lot easier, and
it's a little more common too.
It's a little bit more common. You can have, and you could take somebody with maybe a physical issue, maybe if they have a bad knee or something like that. It's gonna be pretty tough to get on the mats and roll, but you can certainly, put some gloves on, hit a mitt or hit a bag or something like that. So we kind of started working towards boxing, and I've always taught. Really, I've always been a believer in basics. No matter who I'm training, if I'm training one of my pros or amateurs or somebody in the program, we always work basics. That's what's been our cornerstone for all these years, is mastering basics. So we just kind of moved that idea from FICOR into FeetFirst, and that's how it all started.
Okay.
So, can you tell us more about your work with sexually trafficked individuals?
Yeah, so that was one of our first populations that we started working with early on. we were on a radio show, and the radio show is Love Never Fails, and it's a group out of Oakland that has a whole system in place with safe houses and stores and medical help for these young women who have been victimized from trafficking. So we were asked to be on this radio show, Dan and I, and so we went on the radio show. And all of a sudden, all these doors started opening to help out trafficking victims. To this day, we still have a number of groups that we work with in private, secured settings.
That's nice.
And it's a very challenging population to work with, but it's been very rewarding for us and for them. It's been a good mutual relationship. And to this day, I think we have like 30 plus young women in our program.
Nice. What improvement in mental health did you see?
Well, we started a tracking system, an assessment tracking system, that's now really starting to evolve. We started with a basic, like I think 20 question tracking paper that participants would answer these questions. These are all questions that were developed through the state of California. And then what we would do is, we'd track them maybe like on a monthly basis and see what their improvements were. And their improvements were staggering. Some of the numbers of improvements for like depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts and many, many different categories were improving at an incredible rate. And so what we've done with that now is we're still in the process of having a very elaborate website built that's going to be able to track the progress of any participant that's entered into it. So a participant could be entered in through a social worker or through a school counselor or a teacher or a doctor or whoever. Enter that data and that participant into the database, and then they can track them through this computerized system. In fact, we've had help from Google. And this website is like a value of like $50,000, and they're just about finished with it now. So
that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really nice. How did they become comfortable talking?
So we didn't know how that would work.
Mm-hmm.
Me being a fight coach, fight trainer, I don't have a background in psychology, and so we just didn't know how that was going to all play out. But when I was working originally with the women that had been victimized in trafficking, it seemed so. In the beginning, they were coming to the gym, still do, and it felt like a very comfortable place for them. And I think they got right out of the gate that they weren't being judged by anybody, certainly not by me. And I think they had this level of comfort. It took, a few sessions, and then all of a sudden, we'd have these rap sessions, and I don't pry in anybody's personal business. If you want to tell me something, you need to tell me, you can tell me. But I'm not the type that's going to ask a bunch of questions for somebody. But all the girls always seem to, and still to this day, seem to, open up and have great conversations and just feel real comfortable in the program.
That's nice. Can you talk to us about how boxing helps people overcome trauma?
Yeah, so there is and I, not coming from an education standpoint, but there is a direct correlation between alleviating trauma and the physical component of boxing. There's also this component between boxing and, say, Parkinson's disease patients. That's become a very popular subject now. But, and in the same breath with trauma, people who have incurred trauma. So, as far as the actual medical terminologies and how that works, it's very difficult for me to even understand it. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing improvements. We're seeing improvements in our assessment questions, and we're working with psychologists and psychiatrists in different counties, and they're telling us that there's been a definite improvement.
That's really awesome.
Okay.
All right. This is one I think most people are wondering about more. How come teaching youth to box does not lead to increased violence instead?
Right. So, and that's an interesting question, because That was brought up originally, right in the beginning. It was like, well, you guys are fighters. I mean, this is what you guys do. And that is true. But if you look into the setting of a fight gym, whether it's MMA or boxing or kickboxing, you see a lot of very calm, non-violent individuals. If you look at our top guys in my gym, I mean, these are extremely passive people. Now, they train and they compete in a violent sport, but at the same time, they're extremely passive. So there's an interesting crossover there. We started finding that to work with youth. Started finding that you put them through these intense workouts, and the last thing they want to do is be violent towards somebody.
Yeah,
They're too sore to fight.
Yeah, I'll say that I know plenty of people who wrestle and box, and they are the calmest people I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're exhausted.
That's also true. Let's talk about some fun facts. Can you talk about your connection to 13 Reasons Why?
Connections to 13 Reasons Why. Yeah, so we were on HBO fighting on a pay-per-view card on a Cinco de Mayo weekend in Las Vegas, and one of my guys that I train and coach and corner was on that big event. It was one of the biggest boxing events in history, and the commentators had mentioned our gym, and they get the backgrounds on everybody so they can have stuff to talk about during the fight. And so somebody from Paramount Pictures saw the fight, was watching the fight that night on pay-per-view, knew that they needed a boxing gym up here in Northern California because they were stationed out of Vallejo. They called me a couple of times. I never returned their phone call. I thought it was like some goofball calling me. It's like, from Paramount Pictures. I'm like, yeah, right. And I never even returned his phone call. They actually sent somebody to the gym to contact me. And he's like, you don't return your phone calls? I'm like, oh, is that real? But anyhow, that's how it ended up. And we signed a contract, and they filmed 6 different episodes at the gym.
Wow.
Now I gotta really see the show now.
Yeah,
just for those reasons.
Season 2, 6 separate episodes.
How does boxing help you personally?
Well, I mean, I think it gives people confidence. It gives you self-confidence. Obviously, when you have some level of physical conditioning, you're going to feel a little bit better about yourself. And just your ability to protect yourself is always a positive.
What kind of coping strategies do you have to handle stress?
So we call it bag sprints.
Oh.
And bag sprints is one of our favorite ways of coping with stress, and it alleviates a lot of anxiety. And what we do is you punch the bag as fast and as hard as you can. Kathy's looking at me because she's done it a million times.
It's tiring, but it works.
So is Chris. But yeah, it's tiring, but it works. And we do these series of sets where you strike the bag as fast as hard as you can for numerous seconds. Then you break for a few seconds, you go back to it, and you do this for 10, 15 times. And we've found that it alleviates symptoms of stress and anxiety.
That's low-key torture. I'm not going to lie. My arms almost fell off.
It's a little bit of torture.
It works, though.
It does work.
If it works, it's not torture.
Alrighty. Does anyone say that boxing doesn't work for them, and then what would your response be to that?
Well, hey, it's not for everybody. I get that. It's not for everybody. I mean, for me, golf isn't my thing. So if you try to get me into a golfing program to alleviate my anxiety, it probably wouldn't be a good fit. But
No, I'll turn into Hulk Hogan on the golf course
Yeah.
if it goes wrong. I've
Right.
thrown a bag into the water because of it.
right.
So, what's your favorite workout music?
Favorite workout music? Everybody knows that, right? Here that goes to the gym. For me, it's Cuban. I like the Cuban music. I've always enjoyed Cuban music, and it seems to be a kind of a even sort of a feel for the gym, because the gym either has really intense hardcore rap, or it has like hardcore rock, and both sides don't like the other one. But you put on the Cuban music, everybody's like kind of cool with it. It's kind of like Jamaican music, Cuban music.
I actually haven't heard you play Cuban music in the gym.
No?
No, I haven't.
He plays it all the time.
I never.
Unless
That
somebody
Latin
else.
music
Don't
that you
play
hear,
attention.
it's
Pay
that Latin
attention.
music that you hear is Cuban.
Oh.
There you go.
It's got a different kind of feel
Wow.
to it.
Yeah, I do that.
So, what do
I've always kind of been a mentor. Even when I was your guys' age, you know, and I was competing, I always worked with other kids, you know. I just always liked it, you know. It's something I enjoy doing, and I've always enjoyed studying. I don't have a formal education, but I do enjoy reading and studying, and I've always enjoyed helping people. You know, I do it personally through training, and through exercise, and through martial arts. But you know, I've always it's always been a good fit for me, and I've noticed that the kids, the older teens that are in our program who start mentoring younger kids in the program, it helps them too. It helps them.
Yeah, I've seen that happen in several other groups I've been a part of. I even did it in a drama group.
Mm-hmm.
I did it with 16 different boys, and now they've stayed in that program longer than I have.
See, it's amazing. Yeah, mentorship is the key.
All right. Well, thank you so much for answering our questions.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank
All
you.
right.
Your questions.
Huh?
Your questions?
Your questions?
All of
our
our
questions.
All of your
Jinx,
questions.
you owe me a Coke.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not doing this now. Anyways,
Right.
thank you guys so much for watching this today's podcast, and thank you, Sean, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Here's a little fun fact: if you're ever feeling stressed, just punch a bag.
Yes,
Fun
go
fact.
down to your nearest gym and just let it all out.